Well, this is Friday morning or nearly Friday afternoon because we've been trying for the last half hour to establish contact with distant Donegal. Pat, how are you this morning?
I'm grand, Jude.
Or afternoon, as the case may be.
It is nearly afternoon, but anyway, technical difficulties.
Yeah. These things are sent to try us, Pat.
That's it. And the language was fairly blue for a while, but we're very polite now.
This is in case we become filled with hubris, and you know what
yes,
happens.
arrogance and ignorance.
Okay, we've got a number of topics from the newspapers today to talk about. And the first one you noted was that on television and, well, I suppose TV generally, St. Patrick's Day was very muted this year compared to normally. Did you think so?
Jude, it's a very strange year, and I don't want to kick it to death because it's over now, but usually St. Patrick's Day is when the Irish celebrate all across the world. Now, here's a funny thing, you have to straight up. Sitting here yesterday morning, St. Patrick's Day, we have friends in Adelaide, and all he did was put on live streaming, and they were walking downtown Adelaide, and the biggest Irish St. Patrick's Day party you ever seen. It's normality back in Adelaide for some peculiar reason. Now, that was lovely to see it because, geez, we can wish for that. But here we sat in here all day. I don't think we went outside the door yesterday at all. There was nothing on. There was no celebration. Usually, where I live, I'm living in a wee place called Burt, just over the border from Derry. But usually there's someone on in Derry, or there's someone on in Letterkenny, or there's someone on in Buncrana, which are the nearest towns to me. Yesterday, nothing. And even the main road down there was very, very quiet. And there was no family get-togethers or anything like that.
But if it had been a normal St. Patrick's Day, Pat, would you have donned your green, white, and orange sash and
not really. No, but I would have gone. Normally, what we normally do, Jude, we've done it this last couple of years, is go for a drive somewhere, stop off some wee pub somewhere where you can get maybe a bite to eat, and we usually make it a wee family day out. Myself, my wife, and one of my sons, and we usually go out for it. We've done that this last. We always go for a drive somewhere, but this year, because of COVID and all the rest of it, we just sort of stayed at home. So it was a very different. And I noticed too, normally our Taoiseach is in the White House, and there's a big to do, and it's all backslapping and shamrocks and whatever, green ties. But this year it was done virtually. But in fairness, I can never remember the guy's name on RT, their Washington correspondent. He said he thought it wouldn't work, but it actually did. It came across very, very well. And there was that whole thing about the old Biden is definitely probably the most Irish American president since JFK.
And then some. I have mixed feelings about this sort of parades and so on. If there hadn't been COVID, we would have had parades in every town in Ireland virtually.
Absolutely.
But I remember a time certainly when I was growing up, and I was a young man, the biggest thing you had was in Dublin was a few tractors going past and maybe some of the defence forces, and that was it. Really, have we adopted something American here rather than something Irish?
Well, that's it. All these lorries going past in second gear.
Flatbed trucks.
And I find them infinitely boring. But usually a lot of people
looking at the girls. You like looking at the drum majorettes.
The only thing, when I was young, the only thing that interested, she's good looking. That's about it. Now, I have no interest in Massey Ferguson tractors or flatbed trucks or whatever. But a lot of what do you call these things? They used to do a lot of like shows on the back of the flatbed trucks. The sort of exhibitions. I don't know what the hell they
floats.
But that's some of them were quite clever and some of them were quite good. These wee sort of scenes from maybe films or our local characters.
That's right. Like fancy dress parade, really.
Fancy dress, that sort of thing. It's sort of like pageant, or I don't know what's the correct word. But like other than that, it's supposed to be a celebration of our culture and our heritage. It's basically Ireland's Day, isn't it?
It is. I was very struck by that, and somebody made the point, I think, at RTE that there is no other country that would have, or people, I suppose you should say, that would have as much coverage throughout the world. Everybody in Adelaide and Melbourne and Chicago and so on. They have buildings in green. Now, it mightn't amount to a hill of beans, but it's kind of nice to have the spotlight on us for a little.
Well, what is the biggest parade in the world St. Patrick's Day parade is in New York.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where it started as well.
Yeah,
That's where it began.
yeah,
I don't think there was a parade in Ireland until
yeah.
they copped on to what they were doing in the States.
I
I
Dude,
thought,
many years ago, I think it was 1989, we were in Australia,
yeah,
and we drove over Sydney Harbour Bridge on St. Patrick's Day. And the funniest thing was to see that, we were far from home that time. And I remember seeing all these people with green jerseys on them. I know, and pints of beer and green hats. Now, whether they were Irish or Australian, I'll never know.
hmm.
But I remember thinking, good God, hey, it's even reached here. That's way back '89. That's a long time ago.
I have mixed feelings about it anyway. But I thought Micheál Martin's thing yesterday went off fairly well with Biden. Although I did get something of a sense of that Martin was cast in the role of the head prefect, and Biden was headmaster.
Yeah,
So,
well, Jude, you're up like sure. Ireland would fit in. There was 52 states, is there, or 51 states? Ireland would fit in like any one state, and by some distance, like Ireland would fit into Texas about 4 times, and that's only one state of America. So you're always going to be that sort on the hind, as the sort of saying goes. And but we've on we punch above our weight now. Let's be honest. But hey, we're probably into this thing. But Dermot Ferder, I know you're going to bring it up. Professor Dermot Ferder says it's all lovely and all the rest of it, but he says while people sort of what would they say, sort of campaigning and poetry, they govern in prose. Well, that's Biden is very pro-Irish, very, very pro-Irish. But Ireland's going to be well down his priority list. He's got the whole big thing about COVID. He's got the whole thing about China. In fact, their relationship with China is going down the pan very quick. He has called Putin a killer. So, and the whole world order, Trump has left them. They just joined the World Health Organization.
yeah.
They have sort of isolated themselves, and they have alienated allies like Germany and France big time. So they're like Joe Biden has a lot on his plate, and I don't think Ireland's going to figure way towards the top of that.
So you figure he's got to clean out the stable first at home. Well, you
Absolutely.
see, Joe Biden was, as Dermot Ferder points out, was a leading light in the Friends of Ireland. Now, the Friends of Ireland was a thing established, as you know, in the 80s, and that was essentially to counteract NORAID. It was to put constitutional pressure for decent governance in the North on Britain. A simple way of putting it would be this, that he was a leading light in the Friends of Ireland, and as a result, he would be at least lukewarm towards what now are the Friends of Sinn Féin. I mean, that's an official organization in the States, Friends of Sinn Féin. So it comes down to what is the Irish government's line. And the fact of the matter is the Irish government's line, as led by Micheál Martin, is push this can down the road as far as you can, and let's have a few cross-border things, but none of this talk about border poles, none of that stuff. So it seems to me, in a way, that Joe Biden's a prisoner to whatever government there is in Dublin. Now, if Sinn Féin were the government in Dublin after the next election, that would be quite interesting to see. How would Biden react to that? I think he's governed largely by who's in charge in Dublin. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
I do actually agree with that. Jude, there's a massive sort of thing going on there. I don't know where where do you go with all this? There's a big fallout from Brexit. There's a big fallout, demographics and all the rest of it. And that you mentioned there the Irish government. That's what's the Share Ireland thing that Micheál Martin has set up. Dude, I think it's getting exposed. They keep running away every time the constitutional question comes up. And I think Sinn Féin are actually starting to win that argument. What is it? 53% there voted. They said they did a poll recently for the Kerryperson show. I think it was 53% said they were in favour of United Ireland right away. Like 53% without even a discussion. Now, can you imagine? And there was about 27 or 37% weren't sure, and about 11 or 15 or something percent, whatever it is. I can't remember. But anyway, look, there is an issue here, and it's going. But Dublin, the Dublin government seems to be more than all the time, and there is coming across. There's almost this appeasement of unionism going on all the time.
Mm.
The concerns of nationalists or the rights of nationalists are very much considered subsidiary to.
Yeah.
Let's not upset the unionists, and that seems to be, and I think that's starting to wear on a lot of people in Northern Ireland, particularly of obviously the nationalist community.
Well, it's certainly wearing on the people in Northern Ireland, but I think the key thing would it be wearing on the people in the South. But Emma de Souza, who is a well-known name because of her efforts of her husband
the civil rights
in the North.
Yeah.
She also has an article in today's Irish Times, and the title is "The North's Civic Forum Should Be Revived." Now, part of the Civic Forum was up and running shortly after the Good Friday Agreement, went on for about 2 years, and then because Stormont was collapsed and so on, it never really revived. But she points out that the guy, Professor Pete Shirlow, has got what's called a civic space running in Liverpool University. He's the big man for Irish studies there, I guess.
Irish studies there, yeah.
It's bringing in. She says it's bringing in pro-unity and pro-union categories, and it's having people look at their respective positions and provide data and so on. Would you be hopeful for that? Would that be sufficient for you, Pat?
But there's the funny thing. Pete Shirlow, Professor Pete Shirlow, is creating a space to discuss everything about, including the Constitution. He has provided a forum that the Irish government aren't willing to do. Now, I don't know what exactly Pete Shirlow's background is, but he's willing to do.
Are you trying to say you're not sure if he's a unionist or a nationalist?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Yeah. I presume he's would be of a unionist background.
I think so. But I think that's probably
I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. What I'm saying, I don't know. Yeah. But like the fact that he's willing to do it and the Irish government isn't willing to do it says something. Like, you need a space, Jude. It is not, what would you say, intimidating anyone, or it's the right to self-determination, Jude, was included in the Belfast or Good Friday Agreement in 1998. And it's quite legitimate for people in the north of Ireland, the nationalist community, to say we want a discussion about unity. Like, there's no shyness in the union saying our precious union. What's the problem for nationalists having the right to say we want a discussion? The centenary of Northern Ireland is basically upon us. It hasn't been a success story as far as nationalism is concerned, and it's quite legitimate. It's not. Nobody's talking about bringing out guns. It's not about violence. It's about the political road ahead. And the demographics are changing. The outlook is changing. Brexit is changing. So it is totally, completely, and utterly legitimate for people to have a discussion.
But you're missing one thing there, I think, Pat, and that is the fact that Micheál Martin doesn't want to have a border poll, full stop.
But that's his problem.
Yeah. The unionists... backers in the British Parliament aren't quite so shy, mind you. That article quotes from Jacob Rees-Mogg, where he says, yes, we do have a selfish and economic reason for maintaining the union. Remember that famous phrase about
Peter Brook?
Selfish or strategic interest.
We have no selfish or strategic interest in Ireland.
Well, he says, Rees-Mogg, who's a right-wing Tory, says we do have a selfish and economic reasons for the union, and certainly I suspect that Arlene Foster would agree with him. But my problem with the thing in Liverpool is I think universities they're not real people in those places. I think it gets there's a certain, let's put it like this, something based in a university, in most cases, there's a big disconnect with ordinary people. And I think if you're going to have a forum or a citizens' assembly, such as they had in Dublin for the abortion referendum, then it should be composed carefully of a cross-section of the Irish people. I think that's the answer. I'm not sure that whether even Pete Shirlow was a nationalist or a Republican, I'd still say that university air is kind of rarefied, and it's not really something that people can plug into. So I would hope that someday Micheál Martin or whoever then becomes Taoiseach will set up a citizens' assembly very similar to the one that was set up for the abortion debate. be sponsored by them, or even maybe a joint North-South Citizens Assembly that's set up by both. Although I'd be sort of, I doubt very much if that would get a green light from Arlene. But I do think that involvement of ordinary people, carefully selected, it has shown its worth. I think most people believe in the assembly for debating about abortion, threw a lot of light on it. So why can't they do the same thing here? I think it's the only way.
But Jude, the point is, I think D'Souza made the point in her article that the very fact that Pete Sherlow has been able to get a lot of people from the unionist community to engage in his project suggests that this sort of thing that the Dublin government are suggesting and unionists are not willing to engage. She says that disabuses that idea. That she says there have been numerous contributions. And like when you think about it too, your man, I can't, what's his first name? Robinson, not Peter, the guy that's
Gavin Robinson.
Gavin Robinson. He is Peter Robinson said stuff about United Ireland. Gavin Robinson has said stuff. Arlene Foster even discussed it, albeit in a negative way, with what do you call the comedian Paddy? Can't remember his name either. So Patrick Keelty, So these are things, Jude. The reality is that it's here. Brexit has changed things. And the whole discussion point, you can't get away from the fact now that the union or the unity is a live topic. No matter how much Micheál Martin and Leo Varadkar try and run away with it. Jude, by the way, one thing I'm sure at, there was an article last week in the Sunday Times of all places, which I've found, I nearly fell off a chair, by Justine McCarthy, which was absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. It was totally fair. But she raised the point that and I think she'll probably pay a price for it. She broke the consensus of the Dublin Four elite, all the columnists who all seem to be singing from the sort of herd mentality. She actually said, "Wait a minute, the Dublin government, both parties are running away from this, and it's not doing anyone any good." And I thought it was absolutely brilliant, because she actually asked the questions that normal, ordinary, decent people, north and south, are asking.
Well, I hope you're right, Pat. I'm not 100% sure that many normal people in this, maybe in the south, are really particularly worried about or concerned about the border. I think if there was a poll set up, they'd go along with it. But I think they'd need more information about what kind of state is going to be established.
The thing that's 53%, all they have heard so far, Jude, is why they shouldn't be a United Ireland, the fear of violence and loyalists. All that stuff's been fed to them day and daily. That's the subliminal message that's coming out from Dublin.
Yeah, but I think they have to have some means, and as I say, I think a citizens' assembly would be the best way, where you map out what you think or would believe would be necessary in order to establish a United Ireland. That has to be drilled down into and examined very carefully over a period of a number of years. And I don't think universities are the place for them. And why as you say, if they can have one for abortion, well, surely Irish reunification is at least as important as that. The trouble is the blockage is coming with the government in Dublin.
Yeah, Jude, the shared Ireland thing, let's be honest, that was to use your term, it was set up to kick the can down the road. It was to take the steam out of the whole Brexit and the way, the Civic Forum, the famous Civic, or the one at the Waterfront Hall. I think the government got a bit of a fright when they saw how many people showed up. That it was I think it was your man Murphy, the solicitor, who said it was the biggest meeting of Irish nationalism in about 100 years, and it was a huge number.
Well, we were both at that, and it was very impressive. I think. Well, if we leave this topic now, but my final point on it would be really that it's time that something solid was done. And to be honest, I think that the University of Liverpool, while commendable, is maybe a diversion. I don't think there's really people in there. And if they're sitting there having unionists coming in and talking, well, tell us a few names, because I'll bet it wasn't Arlene Foster, and I'll bet it wasn't even Gavin Robinson, and I'll bet it wasn't even Peter Robinson.
Yeah, but here's the one thing I will say. At least it's an incubation. It's a start, something. Which is more than the Dublin government's doing.
Yeah, I guess it's better than sitting on the ditch whining. Okay, let's move to finally a rather more, well, you might call it frivolous if you wish, but it's been on the radio and it's been in newspapers and God knows where in recent days. Michael Healy-Rae has commented on this and others on this question of a newspaper, which the name of which everybody in Ireland probably knows, the Kerryman newspaper. And some people are now suggesting that the Kerryman should no longer be the Kerryman. It should be something that would reflect the fact that there's not just men in Ireland, there's women as well. Are you taking sides with Michael Healy-Rae, Pat?
I am 100% on Michael Healy-Rae. I think it was the most stupid thing. Jude, know something. See when you take someone to its ridiculous degree, the absurdity strikes you. This is a paper that's been on the go for over 100 years, more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's called the Kerryman.
Yeah.
Josephina, I think it's Josepha Madigan. I think
that's right. That's her name. Yeah.
She wrote a piece, I think, in the Daily
She's a
Mirror.
Minister of State
for Equality. And she came up with
actually special education for special education. Slow learners.
No, Jude, the temptation to go on there. No, don't. Right.
Don't go there.
She came up with this one, and she was on yesterday morning in RT trying to defend it. Jude, she wants to call the thing the Kerryperson or the Kerry people, to change it from the Kerryman. Now, Jude, after no wonder Donald Trump got elected in America, where people are so fed up with this ridiculous political correctness. You know, Jude, I remember Pete St. John, who wrote Dublin in their Air Old Times. I heard him on one morning on RT, I think it was a Sunday morning, where he said he was asked, there's a line in his song where, and it's been, that song's been out there for 40 or 50 years. Someone asked him to change, skin as black as coal. They wanted him to change that because he said it was racist. And he said, he refused point blank. He says, no way was he playing that game. And there's things, what are they going to change now? Are they going to change Huckleberry Finn? Are they going to change all that sort of stuff? Where do you stop? And I thought Josephina Madigan was one of the most stupid arguments. And when you find yourself with agreeing with Michael Healy-Rae or Danny Healy-Rae, I can't remember which, Michael Healy-Rae. He came across as the rock of no sense. And you're going, this is ridiculous. With a cap. And when you find yourself agreeing with Michael Healy-Rae, there's something seriously wrong with the argument from the other side.
Well, there's that. I partly agree with you, Pat. I mean, I am not, and generally, I'm not in favor of applying standards of today to things that were established and done, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do also think, though, that words
matter.
Of course, without words.
Yeah.
So if we have words that lead us a certain direction, then we've got to be careful that it's the right direction they're taking us. Now, if you have got a newspaper called the Kerryman, that was given that title at a time when, men were the people that mattered, really. Women's job was to be at home and have children and make the dinner. It wouldn't break my heart, frankly. And I could see an argument for it if it was changed to the Kerry people. It wouldn't, I think the idea of calling it the Kerryperson, I think that's a bit daft. But I think the Kerry people, there's a lot of newspapers, don't they have people in their title? I'm trying to think.
I worked for one called the Dairy People years ago.
There you are. Yeah. So I think it's important. Well, as I say, Jude, agrees with you on that.
No, Jude, with the greatest respect, you're missing the point totally.
But this is changing. Means that you're going to say something really bad about me.
No, that's very logical and very whatever, Jude. But it's changing something to fit in with our values now that is not offensive at all. It was called the Kerryman. No one even thought about it. It doesn't even, and they just changed something now for the sake of it. Just to be politically correct. That to me is absolute bollocks. Jude, go down there and there's a manhole cover down there. Do we start calling that woman hole cover, or do we start calling it?
That's what he said. Michael Healy-Rae said he was ahead of you in that one. He said to call it a person hole.
Person who what? It's ridiculous. It seems see where someone's offensive, change it, of course so. But to just say it's something, a paper that was set up about 1901 or something, or whatever it was, I can't remember, or 1904, whatever it was, and they say now that we want to change it because Jude, there's nothing offensive about calling the Kerryman.
Well, here's one, Pat. What about mankind?
We're going to call it people kind.
No, they now regularly refer to it as humankind.
Well, okay, I have no problem with that.
Well, if you have no problem with that, why would you have a problem with changing the Kerryman
Because
into the Kerry people?
one's a brand name, you know, it's established as a brand. You know, what is humankind or mankind is basically just an expression.
Oh, I don't know now. I think if you say mankind, there is definitely an emphasis, and I know it embraces women as well. But if you say humankind, then you're making it quite clear what you mean. Anybody who's
Yeah,
a human being.
yeah.
So there was a time when mankind was accepted, and that was fine. Nowadays we say,
But
no, that's sort of exclusive. Humankind.
I love equally well with either. In fact, I would probably go for humankind. But
Yeah.
if somebody used the term mankind, I'm not going to go big deal.
No, but there are people who would don't like it, and I can kind of understand their view because words are you can't think without words. And if
No,
you're thinking, if certain words, like remember, I don't know, you've read 1984 by George Orwell.
Orwell, I was just ahead of me. I was just about to.
And they got rid of words. Some words they got rid of, so that people couldn't think the thought, like treachery.
Yeah, well, wasn't it Orwell sort of said that without clear language, there's no clear thought.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think words are very important, and they do suggest a way of thinking. And if that way of thinking is tilted towards one group rather than another, I'd be a bit worried. On the other hand, there's a part of me that goes with you, Pat, and I really do get sometimes quite itchy and annoyed when people are forever on about, we can't have this, we can't have that, we've got to change this, got to change that.
Aye.
But I think maybe we should be more sensitive to the fair sex.
Hold on. I agree with you there. There's a sensitivity thing, and if something is offensive, of course, change it. But then there's the absurdities, and you see when you sort of follow a path, the absurd path, you do end up at sort of absurd central. Where you find
I like that absurd central. Good.
I don't know, like some of the things people are coming up and find offense at now. No, and I can see why. When I was listening to that yesterday, I can see why Trump has appealed. Like, this is bullshit. These sort of loony left wings and finding offense, and I know the snowflakes and all the rest. Not that I'll ever agree with Trump, but I can see how he appealed to people who are fed up with this sort of stuff.
I think you're right. My final word on it would be, I would be open to change, but I need to have a good, strong argument for saying that the change would be beneficial in terms of how people see other people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the case has been made for changing the Kerryman to the Kerry people, but frankly, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
Like, okay, look, well, I'm not going to use the word either because I think it is a serious offense. Remember the N-word? Then it became Negroes, and then I remember the first time I ever heard the phrase. There was a race on an athletics race, and I think it was about 19, maybe early 70s. And this colored man, I was going, colored man, he was black, and that but everybody thought that was politically correct, and then it moved on to black, and then it sort of moved on to African American. I don't know where, but whatever the people who are black find least offensive, I am totally in favor of. But see, that's looking for a thing like changing something that no one has at least put offense, the Kerryman to the Kerryperson or the Kerry people.
Well, here's is just an example of what I was watching last night, and we'll only take a minute at it because I think we're running over our time. I was watching Curb Your Enthusiasm by the guy who wrote Seinfeld, Larry David, and he has a series called, it's the last 20 years, called Curb Your Enthusiasm. And there was a bit in it where he was talking to some guy in a wheelchair, and he said, "Hey, I'm totally in favor of you handicapped people." And the guy said, "Well, what did you say?" He says, I like handicapped people. He says, "That's not what you're insulting us. What are you calling us that for? We're not handicapped, we're disabled." And he says, "Disabled? Handicapped? What's the difference?" But that's true. That is true. You cannot anymore, just as you would not use the word Negro now for somebody who's black, likewise, you cannot use and shouldn't use, apparently, handicapped. You must use the word disabled.
Disabled, yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you think that makes sense?
I don't know.
What's the difference, Pat?
It's not a big difference. No, it's not a big difference. But I would know. So if somebody's sitting in a wheelchair says, "By the way, Pat, I am not mentally handicapped, or I am disabled, but I can't do certain things. I'd prefer you use that. I have no problem with that. None.
Yeah, but poor old Larry thing was, well, you see, there doesn't seem to be any real reason for it. Disabled, handicapped.
No, no. Well, probably as a journalist, I can't see a big difference on those words either. But you know, if that's the term somebody prefers, who am I to argue?
Okay, here's my final statement on it then. I would agree that it's important to check the language you use, because there are things we bring from the past that are genuinely hurtful and do put people in lower status positions than they should be. But the second thing is, I do believe there are thought police around who go around looking for terms and then wanting to pin against the wall people who use terms that they don't like.
Absolutely.
That's what
Jude, Jude, I'll leave you this one. I was on a local radio station one day, and somebody asked me, I said, I'm a bit schizophrenic about that. One day I think this, and the next day, and I actually nearly took offence because the presenter apologized for me on my behalf. Without,
I knew,
and I still can't see anything wrong in the least with saying, look, I'm a bit schizophrenic. That's a mental health term, and I'm saying, by the way, most of us have think like that. There's days we think something's totally all right, and the next day we think, you know, and you say some days I'm almost schizophrenic about it. I didn't see the least bit offensive. It wasn't meant to be offensive. It wasn't pejorative in the least.
Why would it be? I had the same experience actually on my Facebook page. I think I mentioned something about suicide, and good God, you know, oh yes, that's right. It was Meghan of Meghan and Harry fame, and I said something about, you know, she said she had considered suicide, and I said I don't believe her, and there was several people come on really hot and heavy and said I was the wrong thing to say and I shouldn't have said it. Now that really indicated a wrong mindset. You see, that's the kind of thing would drive me into the arms of Trump, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in other words, you're not entitled to an opinion.
Well, that's it. That's it. Here's my final thought. Some liberals are willing to have you say anything you want, as long as it's what they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
On that note.
Okay. I tell you, we're going to change the world, Pat. Seriously. And I've got the wall picked out for the people who don't agree with me already. Okay, Pat.
Good luck, Jude.